It is the biggest weekend in professional wrestling all year. It is WrestleMania weekend in Philadelphia, Saturday night and Sunday night, and we are here to break down every single match and make our predictions. Let's talk about it. And welcome everybody to New York Sports WickerMedia. I am Y2K99. Thank you, as always, for taking the time to join me here for the show. Usually we go on Wednesday night, but I decided I was going to do a WrestleMania predictions video just like I did last year. But I thought, you know what? Let's have a little bit of fun with this, and let's go ahead and do a live show. Let's give you a little bonus content tonight for the fans of, well, New York Sports WickerMedia, and hopefully maybe get a few new eyeballs on the channel tonight. So there are 13 matches scheduled over the two nights. So we're going to talk about each one of those. Maybe we'll have somebody pop in tonight. Don't know if we will, but we shall see. So let's go ahead and get right into the show. So on Saturday night, let's bring up a couple of slides here. Yep, there we go. The first match I'm going to talk about, yeah, that looks pretty good, is going to be the Battle of the Usos. Jimmy Uso against Jay Uso, one of the best tag teams in the history of WWE. Quick shout out to Harlan Abraham. Yep, we've got the wicker chair. It is right there. Wicker chair is there in all of its glory. This is a match for me that I'm going to send this link out real quick to a couple of people here. Yeah, I think we should. I think I should probably share this. So let's do that super quick, and then we'll get into the show. I'm glad that this is a 2-night event. I mean, that's one of the few good things that the pandemic gave us was, my gosh, when we had to deal with those one-night WrestleManias, 5-6 hours. I mean, it wore me out watching it at home, let alone everybody else, who was in the arena. So, but I think it's going to be a really, really good thing. All right, so this match, to me, Jimmy and Jay have been wanting this match for a lot of years. They've wanted to have a singles match. They wanted it to be at WrestleMania. Well, they have it. I think Jimmy needs this win a little bit more than Jay does because, Jay's been getting a little bit of a push. He won the tag titles with Cody Rhodes. They held those titles for an entire week. And Jimmy, on the other hand, ever since the Usos kind of broke up, they went their separate ways, and Jay left the bloodline and went over to Raw. It really seems as though Jimmy has been nothing more than one of the whipping boys, one of the feed men for Roman, along with Solo Sikoa. So I wonder. Here's the thing with this feud: is this a one and done match, or does this match lead to something more? Because typically at WrestleMania, you either end the feud or you begin the feud. In most cases. So if they're beginning the feud, it makes sense for Jimmy to win. But if they're only going to do it one time, then I would say it makes sense for Jay to win. I think that's what's going to happen. I think Jay is onward and upward. It's funny because a few years ago, most people saw Jimmy as being the breakout star of the tag team. And now it seems like it might be Jay. I'm going to take Jay to win this match. All right, our next match is going to be a tag team match. Now, it was supposed to be Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee against Santos Escobar and Dirty Dominic Mysterio. Watching SmackDown tonight, that underwent a few changes. Dragon Lee attacked in the back. Now it's going to be Andrade as Rey's tag team partner. Now, for me, once WWE started to kind of drop the hint that it would be a tag team match, Rey and a partner against Santos and Dominic, I thought Andrade made a lot of sense. We've seen some vignettes on TV with Dominic trying to recruit Andrade into the Judgment Day. didn't really go over all that well. He's been a little bit undecided, so I figured the connection was there. It made sense. Plus, it would be Andrade's, really like marquee return match. I thought maybe Carlito would make sense too. They were going to go with Dragon Lee. I mean, just a week ago, they announced Dragon Lee, the young up and comer, would have the spot, and I was happy about it. I've been a Dragon Lee fan going back to his time in Ring of Honor. Here's my thoughts on this match. Ray beat Dominic last year one-on-one. I think Dominic needs to get the win back. Okay, I think it's going to be Santos Escobar and Dominic Mysterio with the win. There will certainly be some major cheating going on between Legado del Fantasma, the Judgment Day, and the LWO. But I could see a little betrayal happening. Maybe Carlito betrays Ray this time. We saw how Santos was very jealous when Ray seemed to favor Santos Escobar, or when Ray seemed to favor Carlito. And so I think it's going to be one of those situations where now it's Carlito's turn to go heel, which is his best role anyway. So I'm going to take Santos and Dominic in that match. Then we have a 6-woman tag. We've got Bianca Belair, we've got Naomi, and we've got Jade Cargill against Damage Control of Dakota Kai, Kairi Sane, and Asuka. This is the Jade Cargill showcase. This is her debut match, if you don't count the Royal Rumble. Asuka has never won a WrestleMania match. She is 0-6. She's got the reverse Undertaker streak. And this is actually Bianca's first match in her career where she is not going to be in a title match. Okay, but I think this is going to be all about feeding Jade, making her look as good and as dominant as possible. If I had a bet on one match going a certain way, it's this one. Bianca, Naomi, and Jade win it. Then we got an interesting one here. It is the 6-pack ladder match for the WWE Tag Team Championships. Now, of course, there are 2 sets. Currently, it's a unified Tag Team Championship. The Judgment Day have it. Damian Priest and Finn Balor. They're going against Awesome Truth, Miz and R-Truth, DIY, Johnny Gargano, and Tommaso Ciampa. New Day of Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. The New Catch Republic of Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. And you've got A-Town Down Under of Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. This is going to get a little bit funky because WWE has said, Michael Cole on the broadcast has said, you have to take down both sets of belts. The match is not over till that happens. I think we see a split. I think we will have 2 different winners. Okay, and I'm in favor of it because there are a lot of good tag teams, aside from the ones I've already mentioned, that are not even on WrestleMania. The Creed brothers, I'm a big fan of theirs. You've got the Street Profits. You've got AOP, Pretty Deadly. LWO, Legado del Fantasma, the Viking Raiders once Eric comes back. None of those teams are in this match. Okay, so I think there are more than enough teams to have 2 sets of belts. So here's my thought. The New Day, they've held the titles so many times and for so long. They don't have much to gain by winning this. New Catch Republic, I like them, but they're a very new team. They're not really well established yet. As far as Waller and Theory go, they are basically there to be annoying, to get some booze, and to take an ass whip. That is the point of them being there. That leaves 3 teams. Now, I think DIY will show off. I would like to see them win this match. But I think Awesome Truth makes the most sense here. All right? Because R-Truth, his whole storyline with the Judgment Day over the last few months has been incredibly entertaining. And they've left R-Truth laying so many times that he's got to get his comeuppance at some point. So I definitely think Miz and R-Truth will win this match. They will get at least 1 set of tag team titles, but I think one other team will win as well, and I think it's going to be DIY. So I think those 2 teams will each claim 1 set of tag team championships, and the Judgment Day drops both sets of tag team titles in this match. Then we've got the Intercontinental Championship. It is Gunther, the Ring General, I always want to say that on air, against Sami Zayn. Now, this one I've been a little bit back and forth on. I wanted Chad Gable on the spot. I've always been a big Chad Gable fan. I certainly like Sami. He's a very good choice as well. Seeing him win the tag team titles last year with Kevin Owens was really cool. Been watching the 2 of them team up going back to 2007. I just felt the better story was Chad Gable. Because Sami Zayn has won the Intercontinental title about 3 times already. Gable has never held singles gold. I do think Gable will be there at ringside. He will play some sort of role here. I don't. I will say this: I don't want Gable to cost Sammy the title. There's been a little bit of a how do you say it, love-hate relationship over the last month with Gable and Zayn ever since Sami Zayn won the opportunity to challenge Gunther. So, I don't think that the reign is over just yet. Gunther has been champion for 662 days. I think the reign continues, but don't be surprised if Gable plays a major role either at the end of the match or after the match. Let's see what happens. And then we've got the Women's World Championship. Rhea Ripley defending against the man Becky Lynch. This will probably open the show. Becky has said she wants to open night one. So I think that will likely happen. Becky's had a great year, had a lot of great matches, both on the main roster and in NXT as well. To me, here's my thing with Rhea. Very talented in the ring, has a lot of charisma. I know people like her a lot, but I feel like her championship reign has been a disappointment. She hasn't had a match that has been a standout match. She hasn't had a feud. She hasn't really elevated anybody. She's defended against some very credible challengers in my mind. People I like Liv Morgan, Zoe Stark, Raquel Gonzalez. Had a great match with Nia Jax in Australia. But nobody has ever been pushed to the point where you believe they could beat Rhea. That has never happened. I think there are more matches left to go in Rhea's reign. I think she retains the title. And then we have the main event of night one. It is the Rock and it is Cody Rhodes on opposite sides. Rock teaming with Roman Reigns, and of course Cody Rhodes with Seth Rollins. First of all, I can't wait for The Rock's entrance. It is going to be epic. I don't know what it's going to involve, whether it's literal lightning, whether it's a helicopter, what it's going to be. But The Rock has not had a real match in the last 11 years. I think the last time he had an actual match was when he lost to John Cena at MetLife Stadium. But I'm glad it's a tag match. Rock is less likely to get blown up, despite his added bulk. This could go many ways. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of interference. But to me, it makes all the sense for Cody to take the losing fall here. I don't know if Rock or Roman will record the decisive fall, but somehow I think Rock and Roman, it makes sense for them to win this main event and make it more challenging down the road. And then you have bloodline rules on Sunday night. Yes, Harlan, Cody is one of Dusty Rhodes' sons. Dustin Rhodes, a.k.a. Goldust, he is the son of the plumber, baby, if you will. Yeah, the product of my loins, my son Cody. He gonna challenge Roman Reigns this Sunday night at WrestleMania, and he gonna bring that WWE title over to the Rhodes clan, and he gonna put it on my mantle, and I'm gonna be so proud of him, if you will. They're not related. All right, let's go on to night two. So we've got a Philadelphia street fight. You've got Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits going against Karrion Kross and the Authors of Pain, the Final Testament. Lashley was not on WrestleMania last year, which was a real disappointment. He did win the Battle Royal last year, but, he didn't have the match that he should have had. To me, this is a little bit of to me, this could have been on the pre-show. It's just a way to get another match on the show. This feud has not been catching on as well as it should have, but I'm very glad they made this match a street fight. I think this will add the sizzle and the little bit of interest that it will sorely need. I think it's going to be Lashley and the Street Profits winning this match. To me, the Final Testament is just a cold faction at this point. All right, and then we've got the phenomenal AJ Styles against LA Knight. Yeah. All right. This match has slowly been picking up a little steam. The thing with this match is they've been trying to, put some brawls in there. LA Knight showing up at AJ's house, getting into a fight on the lawn, and LA Knight getting arrested. Earlier today at the WWE World at the Convention Center, they got into a little bit of a fight. I meant emphasize the words a little bit. Those first couple of punches that were thrown were not very good. But that aside, this match has needed a sort of a boost because there are so many big matches, so many title matches, so many matches where something is on the line. This is just a straight old-fashioned grudge match that it's really needed a little bit of a push behind it to get it some interest. Now, I'm a little worried it's going to get forgotten about. AJ is one of the best wrestlers of the last 20 years, no question about it. But WrestleMania has not usually been his best night. I mean, think about it. His match with Shinsuke Nakamura, not as good as you would have wanted it to be. Randy Orton, the same thing. His best matches really were the Boneyard match with The Undertaker's final match in 2020, which was a cinematic match, so it was edited and all kinds of stuff. But the match he had with Shane McMahon a couple of years before, the night that they opened WrestleMania, was actually really, really good. Okay. But LA Knight was not on the show last year. This is his first WrestleMania. His 2023 was super hot. He's still over with the crowd. He needs a little bit of shine. I'd like to think this is his moment to get some elevation and work his way towards singles gold and most likely a U.S. title match with Logan Paul at SummerSlam. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think AJ Styles wins this match, but this is going to be the beginning of a feud. It will lead to another match down the road at Backlash or some other event, which LA Knight will then win and ultimately take the feud. But I say AJ gets the first one, probably wins by cheating, roll of the tights, for an object, that sort of a thing. All right. Then we've got the WWE Women's Championship. It is Io Sky defending against her former Damage Control stablemate, Bayley. Bayley, of course, the winner of the Women's Royal Rumble in January. Bayley has not held a singles title since October 2020. Io, to me, has been a little bit overlooked, especially since Kyrie and Asuka came into Damage Control. But as of late, they've had Io do a few interviews in Japanese to give her side of things, with English subtitles. Yeah, because I feel like Io has been too far in the background. This is putting her a little bit more towards the forefront, so I admire what they're trying to do with her. But I think that Io needs to keep this title a little while longer. There are more matches for them to get out of this. I want this to be a longer feud where Bayley continues to chase. We've got Jets Chaos here as well. I have heard of him. That's right, the biggest Mets fan in Sacramento, California, and the biggest Jets fan as well. We will get to the main event in just a little bit, sir. We most certainly will. But I'm going to say Io retains the women's championship. All right, then we get to the United States Championship match. It is going to be Logan Paul, the Maverick, defending in a triple threat against Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. Logan Paul won the title from Rey Mysterio in October of 2023. This is going to be his second title defense. So we didn't think Roman defended his title all that much. He is defending once every 3 months, Logan Paul. Orton doesn't need this championship. He's won so many titles. It's just something for him to do on the show. Kevin Owens, as much as I like him, he doesn't need it quite as much. He's over. He's established. I think Logan Paul needs to hold the championship a little while longer. And I think it's going to be a situation where Logan Paul uses the brass knucks, maybe a distraction roll-up, something like that. But he will definitely retain. And I think he holds the championship up until SummerSlam, which is going to be in his original birthplace of Cleveland, Ohio. I think it makes all the sense to have Logan Paul hold on to the title all the way until SummerSlam. And then let's see what happens. My personal hope is he defends the title that night against LA Knight. Okay, then we go to the World Championship match. It is going to be Seth freaking Rollins, or as I know him as Tyler Black, defending against Drew McIntyre. By the way, if you guys have any thoughts, if you have any predictions, any questions, throw them right down there in the chat. As I see, we got a nice little pop-up of a few people coming in. Thanks, everybody, for dropping by. Definitely appreciate you. All right, I think this match opens night 2. I think it's a good way to start the show, start off the crowd, get them hot. There's only 6 matches on night 2, so to me, you want a little bit of space and between this match and Roman Reigns against Cody Rhodes. So I want this match to open. CM Punk will be on commentary. He's going to get involved at some point. Drew has been doing some of the best work of his career. It's with his promos, his social media trolling. It has been a gradual heel turn for him, but he's doing it in a way where, he's not like angry, bitter. He knows, he thinks he's right. That's the best thing about a good heel in wrestling. They have to believe that they're right no matter how wrong they are. And Drew believes, because he tells the truth, even if it hurts, he's the good guy. So I really do. So that's usually the best kind of heel, the ones who actually think they're the baby face. Harlan Abraham, don't forget to hit the like button. Yes, please. Thank you guys very, very much. I definitely appreciate that. And we got the great Dane O. It'd be hard for me to pick anyone over Dane O in a unitard. From what I hear, you're the only one. Oh my gosh. So here's the thing with this. These two have faced off twice in the last 3 months for the World Championship. Each time Seth has won. So this is really the third match in a trilogy. Would they really have Seth win a third time? Would they keep the title on? You know, Seth's got a heck of a night coming up. I mean, a heck of a WrestleMania. Night one, he's in the tag team main event. I've already got that team losing, but I don't think Seth takes the fall in that match. Would Seth really lose 2 nights in a row? That could hurt him a little bit. But I think it's going to be a situation where Drew's contract is coming up. Right now, it's not known if he is re-signing with WWE or not. I certainly hope that he does. I don't think he should go anywhere. Maybe there's been some resolution to the contract we don't know about, but I'm going to take Seth Rollins to retain the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. I think Punk gets involved for all the trolling that McIntyre has done. This is the spot where Punk gets McIntyre back. He costs him that championship, and that leads into the Punk-McIntyre feud, which will start in the next couple of weeks once Punk gets cleared. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. If you're not a wrestling fan, I definitely appreciate the support. For sure. Now, here's what I've been thinking about. The Money in the Bank briefcase. So Damian Priest has had that contract now for, 9-10 months at this point. He could cash it in at any time for a World Heavyweight Championship match or a WWE Championship match whenever he chooses. When is he going to do it? To me, I would like to see it happen right after the match because I think it's best if Seth leaves this weekend no longer champion. But here's the thing. This is what I'm really thinking about. In a couple of months, like 2 months, we've got Clash at the Castle. It's going to be in Scotland. That is Drew McIntyre's home country, but technically he's a heel. Drew has to have a marquee match, whether he is champion or is going for the championship. I could see a situation where there is one final match with Drew and Seth. Drew wins it in Scotland, gets the win that he did not get in Wales against Roman Reigns, and then after that, right after that, is when Damian Priest cashes in the Money in the Bank. Not saying he wins it, not saying that he wins it, but I think the cash-in will not happen this weekend. I believe it will happen at Clash at the Castle in Scotland. He's going to try to cash in on Drew McIntyre. So that's my prediction there. And then we've got the main event of night 2, a match that has been 12 months in the making. The Tribal Chief, the head of the table, Roman Reigns, defends the undisputed Universal Championship against the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes. I believe it will be under Bloodline rules since I am predicting a Rock and Roman Reigns victory on Saturday night. Roman, as of Sunday, will have been champion for 1,314 days. He has defended the title successfully 31 times, which is not a whole heck of a lot. That's basically one defense every 40 days, really. But he's been champion for a long, long time now. The thing with Cody is if he loses in the main event of WrestleMania to Roman Reigns for the second straight year, I don't know if he could ever recover from it. You know, the fans are behind Cody. They want to see him finish the story. That's all we've been hearing is finish the story, finish the story, finish the story. Johnny Jimenez, I acknowledge your tribal chief, and I acknowledge you as well, my friend. Yeah, good to see you, man. Yeah, so I've wondered how this would go. How could Cody go forward if he loses this? I mean, would he start going for mid-card titles? But, I mean, come on. That's like, well, I didn't get the gold, but I got the bronze medal in this one event. It'll be nice, but it won't be the moment that he has really been looking for all along. It just doesn't make sense. And I've wondered what would happen. You know, would The Rock actually betray Roman? Would Roman provoke The Rock? You know, would that happen? Will Jimmy Uso get involved? Will Solo Sikoa get involved? They most certainly will. There has to be a spot at one point where Solo goes for the Samoan spike to Cody Rhodes because that's what cost Cody the match last year. And Cody either kicks out or gets thwarted. Something like that. So Cody's going to have his backup. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Jey Uso? Is it going to be Seth Rollins? I don't know if it should be Seth. After losing 2 matches, I'm not so sure he should get involved. Maybe Dustin Rhodes makes an appearance. Cody's brother. I don't know if he's still under contract to AEW, but if he isn't, that would make sense. But there's some other people. The last time we saw John Cena, Solo Sikoa beat him and beat him decisively in Saudi Arabia. We've not seen John Cena on WWE TV since. Maybe Cena makes an appearance and he's the one who thwarts Solo. There's a lot of different ways you can go with this. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I will say this. Whoever backs up Cody Rhodes, I don't want them touching Roman. That can't happen. The backup has to thwart the bloodline. They have to thwart Jimmy. They have to thwart Solo. Anybody else who might show up in Roman's defense. That is paramount. Cody has to be the one. It can't be where like somebody shows up, lays out Roman, and Cody is like unconscious, but he crawls, drapes his arm over Roman, and the crowd counts 1, 2, 3. No, Cody has to win, and he has to be the engine behind the win, if that makes sense. All right, so I am picking Cody Rhodes to dethrone Roman and become the new WWE champion, fulfilling the dream of his papa, the American dream, the Pharaoh, baby. All right, guys. So those are my WrestleMania predictions. I'll be here for a little bit tonight. Johnny wants Roman to break Hulk Hogan's record. Well, Hulk Hogan does not have a record. He does in the modern era, we'll call it, ever since the expansion. But Bruno Sammartino held the belt for about 8 years, and Bob Backlund held the belt for about 5 years. So Hulk Hogan, it's a milestone, but it's not a record. Milestone is something somebody has done before. A record is something nobody has done before. Thank you, Jeremy, baby, if you will. Yeah, everybody does their own Dusty Rhodes, and everybody, any wrestling fan does like a Dusty Rhodes, and they do a Stu Hart. The bastard, I can't. Can you feel it? I'm gonna stretch you out there. All right, and then I'm gonna stretch them out like the Jets are gonna stretch out the New England Patriots this year. And they're gonna miss Belichick, and Jeremy are gonna get his ass fired at the 5 games. All right, anyway. Can't do too much of that or it hurts my throat. All right, so yeah, I am definitely looking forward to the show. I know the Hall of Fame is going on in a few minutes as well. Not the most exciting Hall of Fame class of all time. We've got assist here. We all secretly have a pallbearer too. Oh, yeah. He's my Undertaker. Kane, you must be buried. Oh, yeah. Oh gosh, it'll be like impression night all night long here. Ladies and gentlemen, although looking in this chat, I use the word gentleman very loosely. My name is Paul Heyman, and I am the advocate for the reigning, defending, undisputed, Universal Heavyweight Champion, Brock Lesnar. I don't think we'll be seeing Brock. I'm pretty sure we will not see Brock. Although I will say it would have been pretty good if he could have done Paul Heyman's induction speech for the Hall of Fame tonight. But you know what? With the Hall of Fame, my goatee is not quite long enough. It is not at Jim Neidhart lengths yet. But think about the Hall of Fame. I'll do a quick word on some of those folks. It's not the most dynamic one of all time. I mean, The Rock's grandmother is going in, Leah Maivia, promoter from Hawaii. So to me, that's more of a legacy induction. Great. Muhammad Ali is going into the celebrity wing. He's had a few moments in WWE. He was the guest referee outside. He was sort of like the enforcer outside for the first WrestleMania main event in Madison Square Garden all those years ago. My favorite wrestling memory of him is when Gorilla Monsoon gave him an airplane spin back when Gorilla Monsoon was still an active competitor. He actually did do that. Ali was trying to provoke Monsoon, and he took a swing, and Monsoon basically lifted him up and gave him a big airplane spin. Back when that was a move that people actually did sometimes. So that was pretty good. I'll tell you, Jake. I don't know how many. If you know the Jake Roberts Muhammad Ali story, Don't know if you know that. So I'm going to tell you that story. So in Mid South Wrestling, which was Bill Watts' territory, and Louisiana and East Texas and parts of Mississippi, that whole area, right? So at one point, so Jake Roberts is down there, and he's one of the top heels in the territory. And Watts instructed him and a couple of other heels, Ali's going to come in the ring, and he's going to take a punch at you, and you guys are all going to go down and put him over. Everybody refused to do it except Jake the Snake Roberts. So he refused to take the punch. He refused to go down, refused to make Ali look good. He goes to the back, and Bill Watts is yelling at him. He said, "What are you doing? You're supposed to make him look good." He said, "Bill, he didn't have to work next week. I do." That's Jake Roberts. Had a mind for the business for sure. Yep. Also the match against Antonio Inoki. So that was the boxer versus wrestler match in the mid 1970s, where basically they took everything away from Inoki, because Inoki was one of the best wrestlers in Japan of all time. Promoter, politician. Inoki was really an icon in the country of Japan. But they took away all these things that he could do. They wanted Inoki to basically be a boxer, no takedowns, no suplexes, all of this. So what Inoki decided to do was get on the ground and kick at Ali's legs. And Inoki received a lot of criticism for it because the match was very boring. But Inoki explained, and it made all the sense in the world. A boxer is only on the ground when things are not going well. Why didn't anybody ever ask Ali why he didn't get on the ground and fight me? Now, it's not exactly what I would call a very exciting match by any stretch, but, it's been said that match really took years off Ali's career. He developed blood clots in his legs because Inoki was just relentless with those kicks. So, yeah, so Ali had quite a few moments in pro wrestling. The U.S. Express is going in, the team of Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda. I didn't really get to see them team, but the fact that they are brothers-in-law, that is pretty cool. But yeah, I remember them more as singles wrestlers, and I remember them with other tag team partners. It is pretty neat that they initially came out to their theme music was "Born in the USA," all right, by Springsteen, and then it became "Real American." You might know that song. After the team split up, that song was given to another wrestler. I just can't remember who it was. Yep, yeah, "Real American" was not Hulk Hogan's song at first. It was actually the U.S. Express's song. They weren't together, I think, all that long in WWE, maybe a year and a half. I mean, to me, I don't know. I mean, Wyndham's already in the Hall of Fame with the Horsemen. To me, Mike Rotunda should be in his IRS. That that deserves a Hall of Fame spot. I don't know about the U.S. Express. So, but hey, congratulations to Barry Windham. He's a two-time inductee, and yeah, and of course, Mike Rotunda, as most people know, the father of the late great Bray Wyatt. If you have Peacock, watch Becoming Immortal, the documentary on Bray Wyatt that premiered just a couple of days ago. It's about 2 hours, and man, what a mind he had. What a mind Bray Wyatt had for the business, Wyndham Rotunda. So, yeah, Wyndham Rotunda was his real name, and it's Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda going into the Hall of Fame. So, all these little family tie-ins. Also going in, let's see, Bull Nakano, great Japanese women's wrestler, is going in as well. Was in WWE for a short time back in the mid-90s, feuded with Alundra Blaze, but she was getting towards the end of her run anyway. Every year they put a woman in. It's pretty much just what they do. So Bull Nakano gets her turn. There's still quite a few women who deserve to go in one day, whether it's Victoria, whether it's Elizabeth. Of course, it would be posthumous. Sable certainly deserves to go in as well, but this year it's going to be Bull Nakano. Thunderbolt Patterson was sort of like an originator. I didn't get to see him much. He was mostly wrestling down in the Carolinas in the 70s and the early to mid 80s. So they went back in time a little bit with this particular induction. But the way that he spoke, he really inspired Dusty Rhodes. You hear me do my Dusty impression? There's actually Thunderbolt Patterson is one of the originators of that, talking the working man's rap. So, and of course, African American, he was really one of the first African Americans to, gain some prominence in the business, along with guys like Bobo Brazil and Sarah R. Thomas, as I'm throwing out some random names here too. Harlan says Mike Rotunda would be a tag team champion with a different name. Yes, he would. Yep, as IRS. Yep, he was. Yeah, I still remember the first time I'd heard about IRS. It was like the event center and Sean Mooney was hosting. And it was going to be Jimmy Snuka in the Meadowlands against Erwin R. Shyster, who wants to be known as IRS. And he had a pretty good run. Johnny, I was a big Rockers fan growing up. Huge, huge Shawn Michaels fan. Well before the barbershop incident. In fact, it took me a long time to get over Shawn breaking the team up. I don't think I ever truly got over Shawn breaking that team up until he came back years later in 2002. That's how much it bugged me. You know, yeah, it always hurt me. I always had a ton of respect for him, but it was like I didn't root for Shawn Michaels for about a decade because of the way that he broke up the Rockers. Always upset me a little bit, but yeah, once he came back from his back injury after about 4 or 5 years away, yeah, I was a big fan of his. And I will say this: I think Shawn Michaels' second run was even better than his first. You look at his matches with guys like Triple H and Edge, the 2008 feud he had with Chris Jericho, one of the best feuds of all time. I think he had 2 or 3 matches with Kurt Angle, amazing as well. Johnny says, what was the best Shawn Michaels moment? If I had to pick, well, his best moment probably would have been the first time he won the WWF Championship when he beat Bret Hart in the Iron Man match. I believe that was no, that was in Hartford. That was in Anaheim. That was at the Pond in Anaheim. I don't know what he would call. I wonder what he would call his best match or his best moment. But yeah, I think it would have to be his first WWF Championship. That was his dream from the beginning. I think that would make sense. Jeremy attempting to spell Marty Jannetty, he tried. And then you have the headliner of the night. It is going to be Paul E. Dangerously, aka Paul Heyman. I remember Paul E. Dangerously going back to WCW when he was managing the Samoan SWAT team in the very late '80s, who would become the Head Shrinkers in WWF. One of them, Fatu, of course, became Rikishi, who is the father of the Usos. So, I mean, Heyman goes back with that whole Samoan family many, many, many years. And I have very vague memories of the Midnight Express versus the original Midnight Express rivalry in the NWA. When you had Jim Cornette managing Stan Lane and beautiful Bobby Eaton, and you had Heyman, Paulie Dangerously managing Dennis Condrey, who was Eaton's original partner, and Randy Rose, who was part of another Midnight Express team way back when. It didn't last very long. I think Condrey left or something like that. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. But yeah, that feud didn't last very long. It only lasted about 6 weeks, but it really created a lot of heat. Johnny thinks it's retiring Ric Flair. If only it was an actual retirement. Jets Chaos, did Crush play the fake Undertaker? No, close. So the Underfaker was played by primetime Brian Lee. You may know him as Chains from the Disciples of Apocalypse. So that was him. They were very, very close friends. Brian Lee had a pretty decent run. He was like in Memphis, that area. Was in ECW for a little bit. Had a good feud with Tommy Dreamer. If you've ever seen the swinging scaffold match with the tables scattered all in the ring, and Tommy Dreamer punches the biker off, and he falls like from the top of the building through about 15, 20 tables in the ring. That was Brian Lee. That was the fake Undertaker. Brian Adams did not do that. But Undertaker was very good friends with both those guys, with both Bryans. So little bit different. Harlan Abraham's got a few years on me. He's talking about Johnny Rodz, who was a good trainer, and of course Barry Horowitz coming out the Hava Nagila. I remember once he stopped being a enhancement talent. You don't want to say jobber. Jobber offends him, so I'll say enhancement talent. There you go. Scott Foster giving Johnny a quick hit and run. It wouldn't be the first hit and run that Scott's had, I'm sure. But with Heyman, was fired by Bill Watts. We had the Dangerous Alliance, very, very underrated faction for about a year and a half. I mean, think who was in that group. You had Medusa, one of the best women's wrestlers ever. Rick Rude, Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton, Larry Sabisco. That was going to be the stable. But Heyman said, this is back in 1991, I need the star of tomorrow as well.
And they asked him, who do you want? And he said, Steve Austin. Heyman knew, and that was the Dangerous Alliance. It didn't last as long as it could have, but it had a very good run while it was together. After that, he leaves, and of course, he goes to work for Eastern Championship Wrestling, was friends with Eddie Gilbert, who was booking ECW at the time, and Todd Gordon, the owner of ECW, had a falling out with Eddie Gilbert. Gilbert leaves, and Todd Gordon at that point said to Paul Heyman, take over the show, be creative, do whatever you have to do. Yeah, I skipped it. There you go. Happy? I can't highlight everyone, RVD's at the Hall of Fame. Cool. I'm gonna watch the Hall of Fame as soon as we're done. Yeah, I'll stay on a few more minutes. Maybe I'll stay another 15, something like that. We'll see how it goes. So yeah, Heyman takes over the books at ECW, and that was his life for 7 or 8 years. He said, his father was an attorney in Scarsdale, New York. And he said, if my father wasn't an attorney, I never could have pulled off ECW. I got sued more times than Martha Stewart. Have a good night, Scott. Yeah. Harlan Abraham asked, are the Blackjacks in the Wrestling Hall of Fame? Absolutely. Yeah, they were inducted many, many, many years ago. I actually like the new Blackjacks with Barry Windham and Bradshaw. Yeah, I was actually a fan of them. They didn't stay together very long. I think Wyndham's knees were really going. But yeah, I like the new Blackjacks, believe it or not. Johnny, I was up many, many times as a teenager, 2 a.m., watching MSG Network, waiting for ECW to come on. That's where you'd have to find it before the TNN days. Like 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning on MSG Network or Sports Channel, depending on where you lived. It was something else. And yeah, nothing like it. And it definitely did change an industry. Didn't love everything they did by any stretch. But man, every time you watched ECW, you knew you were not going to be bored. You knew you were going to get an exciting, compelling show. That's what they gave them every single time. Heyman, Devon Dudley said it well. What Paul Heyman was a creative genius. Paul Heyman could come up with a storyline for you just like that, but he was a terrible businessman. Like this is the analogy that I heard. Paul Heyman could send the videotape of his show to a TV station, FedEx it for $10, send it overnight. But because he lives so close to the edge, he's got to put it on a jet airliner and spend like $325 instead. And these are the types of things that happen on a weekly basis. And the fact, what Paul had to do is bring some people in to run the business side of things so he could focus on creative. He had to take some of the pressure off himself, and he didn't do that. So, and then you had the issues of the content and distribution. They made a bad deal with TNN, which is now Paramount Network. Became Spike TV. It's now then became, I think, Paramount Network. And they never promoted the show. They never promoted it. It was just not a fit. They didn't want to be with TNN. And after it was over, even though they were making money, even though they were drawing crowds, they definitely were doing that. The pay-per-view buys were doing very well. There was no place to put the network. Nobody wanted to air the show. I mean, TNN was waiting to get Raw. ECW was the guinea pig to see if wrestling would fly on that network. That's all it was. And that's why ECW went away. But look at all the stars that it gave. I mean, Heyman could figure out with guys that would never have been accepted in WWF or WCW and figure out how to make them great. Guys like, imagine guys like the Sandman. Steve, he wrestled better when he was wasted. That's the truth of it. He was never going to make it in WWF or WCW if he went to ECW first. Raven, we saw him as Johnny Polo in WWF. We saw him as Scotty Flamingo in WCW. Then he became Raven. And the Raven character motivated Heyman. It motivated him to, stretch his creativity. And, Scott Levy was the performer of Raven who would take it, to the absolute extreme limit. So those are just a couple of examples. And then you look at all the talent they did create or did put in, they publicized in the United States. Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, Great Pure Wrestling, Lucha Libre. The first time I watched Lucha Libre, I can still tell you the first Rey Mysterio match I watched. It was Rey Mysterio teaming up with 911. It was like a 7-foot-tall biker who didn't do much well except a choke slam, teaming up against the Eliminators, Perry Saturn and John Kronus. In my mind, still to this day, outside of the Briscoe brothers, outside of Mark and Jay, the best tag team that never really got national TV exposure. I believe that. I think it's the Briscoes and it's the Eliminators. And if you ever saw the total elimination finish, it may be the most devastating tag team finish ever. Yeah, I mean the ring would break for Taz and Bam Bam Bigelow. Taz literally scared the shit out of me. Taz would scare me when I was a kid. Taz was so intense. He scared me. I mean, I read about him in magazines as the Taz Sabu feud was starting. All right, it was like late '95 when I started to kind of figure out what was going on. And I read this article, and I knew who Sabu was, but I didn't know who Taz was. And I read these interviews with him, like in Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and I'm like, I gotta watch this. This sounds amazing. And the first time I heard him do a promo, the first time I saw him throw a T-bone suplex, it was like, oh my god, I have never seen anything like this in my life. Meanwhile, in WWF, you've got like Men on a Mission and Duke the Dumpster Drosy and the Pug Alex Porto. That's what we were watching on WWF for the most part. You know, WCW. I mean, you know, yeah, you had Hogan's friends in there. It was like watching the senior PGA Tour for wrestling at times. You know, Harlan Abraham says the managers were even better than the wrestlers in ECW. Well, if you talk about Beulah and Francine, I would absolutely agree with that. I actually met Francine; she was absolute sweetheart. So, but yeah, Heyman left, goes straight to WWF as a commentator to replace Jerry Lawler. And then came the Alliance angle, the whole WCW, ECW against WWF, one of the biggest missed creative opportunities in the history of the business. And then after that, Heyman, WWF did the One Night Stand show, which really sparked a revived interest in ECW. And this was in 2005, I want to say. 04 or 05, one of the years. I think it was 05. And WWF decided, let's run our own ECW, which was never going to be the same, but they had Heyman do creative, but Heyman was very restricted. It didn't last very long. Finally, there was a complete blow up, and he left. And he spent some time on creative, doing SmackDown stuff like that. But he was at his best on air. Like he was like after that whole era, Heyman was like the last of a dying breed with the managers. There's never been a manager like him since. You don't see managers all that much anymore, especially in WWF. But Heyman, the way that he guided Brock Lesnar, gave Brock instant credibility that he was able to speak for Brock. It was a great combination, and credit to Vince McMahon for seeing the potential in that combination. Heyman went on to manage a few other people, Cesaro, Curtis Axel, guys like that, Ryback. But, it was all about him and Brock. And then when he switched over to Roman Reigns and became the wise man, he went from being the advocate to being the wise man. You put Paul Heyman with anybody, they get instant heel credibility. Still one of the best talkers in the business. In my mind, probably the second best manager of all time, second only to Bobby Heenan. And I don't think Heyman would be offended if he heard me say that. So, we're going back to some of the old school guys. Yep, you had the Grand Wizard, classic Freddie Blassie. Lou Albano stuck around because he always refused to be fired. My mom, when she was working at Newark Airport for American Airlines, she met Lou Albano a couple times coming in through Newark Airport. Yeah. Blassie was always interesting. I always wondered, like with like some of the foreigners, like with Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik, how Slick was their manager. It always seemed a little bit weird to me. I just thought that was a messed up combination. Fred Blassie was the Iron Sheik's manager. When he dropped the title to Hogan. The Heyman speech is epic. They're already on the Heyman speech? Oh my god. Well, this is good. Well, this will be quick. That's what she said. You almost never saw Arnold Skaaland. No, I didn't know who Arnold Skaaland was up until years later because, he was working behind the scenes. And, by the time he was done managing, I was born in 81. And Backlund dropped the title in what, 84. Yeah, the very end of 83. And then Hogan took it in January of 84. So, yeah, you would see Skaaland for like little highlights and things like that. But, my generation, what we know Skaaland for is throwing in the towel. When Bob Backlund went heel, when he went crazy, he attacked Skaaland, and there was always a reference to throwing in the towel. Yeah. Harlan dropping a little bit of knowledge here. When he was a wrestler, Fred Blassie was known as the Vampire. I'm not sure I've heard that. I know he was a huge, huge villain, especially in Japan. Huge villain in Japan. Big. I know he even married a lady from Japan in his later years. But I definitely have my favorites. But I grew up on WWF. Like I probably remember all the way back to about WrestleMania 3, definitely WrestleMania 4. But I have some memories of like 1987 as well. And it was probably around 88 or 89 got into WCW. And yep, ECW about 95, 96. And I stayed with them. Then, of course, WCW and ECW go away. It was about 2005 I became a Ring of Honor fan. And I was a very loyal, diehard Ring of Honor fan for the next 15 years. And, or actually the next 17 years, really, 2005 to 2022. I know it still exists. I know Tony Khan owns it. But to me, it is no different than the WWF owning ECW. It's just, it's now just corporate. It's not the essence of what Ring of Honor was. It's not the same thing when I used to go to these armories, to the park, recreation and park buildings and the theaters and stuff like that and watch those shows. Watch the guys who became the stars of tomorrow. When I was watching them in the third row and spent 25, $30 for a ticket, I'd hang with them at the bars afterwards. I drank beers with them. I ate pizza with them. I did karaoke with some of those guys. Ring of Honor was the highlight of my fandom, of my wrestling fandom, and it just can't be the same anymore. You change, you grow up, you move on, and you just, I have so many Ring of Honor DVDs. It's like I can't devote myself to a new wrestling product again. I still watch WWE. I still care about WWE, but at this point in my life, it's not what it was. Put it this way: I am not going to have all out conniptions over a match not going a certain way. It's not like when I'm watching a Jets game, or it's not like even watching a Mets game and I'm cursing out ball for the first walk of the game, right? So that's not quite happening. Oh man. Well, guys, I'll tell you what. We've gone about an hour. I think I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna call it a night. I think what we'll probably do is I'm not sure if I'm gonna do a recap after both Saturday and Sunday, or maybe I'll post one the following morning. But yeah, I'll do something for sure. And man, what a night it was! If you're a New York sports fan, what a night this was, right? If you're a Yankees fan, not too good, but man, the Mets win again. Edwin Diaz getting the save again. It felt very good to put the trumpet emojis up on Twitter again, which is something that I always do. The Mets win, the Rangers win, the Knicks. The Knicks. I know the Knicks were rallying against the Bulls. Yeah, they were down by a shit ton of points. But the Islanders had a very good night as well because the Capitals and the Flyers lost. The women's game's tied at 47. Okay, the Knicks lost 108-100. But you know what? In a way, it's not the worst thing in the world because OG Anunoby is back in the lineup, and that's more important than one win or one loss. They need Anunoby. They need him healthy. So I'd rather have lost this game with him than have won the game without him because they need him back. So, but they will see the Bulls again soon enough. The Knicks just had a horrible start on offense, and no, didn't win this one. But I have a feeling it's gonna kind of come together. It sucks to lose Julius Randle, but if he's the one piece missing, I think this team can still make a pretty good run in the playoffs. Just not a championship run. I guess the other thing to mention real quick, again, I mentioned it on Wednesday night, but the Final Four, I am super excited for tomorrow. I root for the NC State Wolfpack. And once again, every expert out there is picking against them. They're picking Purdue. They're talking about Zach Edey like he's Akeem Olajuwon, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Patrick Ewing combined. They talk about how Purdue shoots 40+% from three-point range. And once again, the Pack are being counted out. Well, I was just in Raleigh, North Carolina this past weekend, my friends, watching that NC State Duke game with about 500 NC State fans was unbelievable. One of the coolest moments I've had as a sports fan in a little while was watching that game with a bunch of state fans. I think they can continue it. The only way Alabama beats Connecticut, by the way, they're going to have to play like Villanova did against Georgetown in 1985, when Villanova made practically every shot in the second half. Alabama is all about the three. They shoot about 47-48% of their shots from three. They're going to have to do that all night long because Connecticut is that good. Why does Rhea look so hot, you wonder? I don't know. Rhea just doesn't do it for me. I don't know. I'm not into that much ink and all that stuff. I like the Australian accent, but no, that much dark and that much ink doesn't work for me. That don't work for me, brother. But hey, if that's your thing, cool. Just not my thing. But all right, guys, I'll tell you what, we are going to call it a night. So I want to thank everybody for stopping over. If you watch WrestleMania, I hope you'll enjoy it. But everybody, have a fantastic weekend. And I will see you right back here with more content from you know where. The Wicker Chair. Have a good one, everybody.